brain sluice, slick with ectoplasmic juice. Ecstatic energy, a fire that fuels our memory. With genealogy, with spiritual topography. Questions for your answers, we are data necromancers. The person says, "Hi, I was listening to one of the latest episodes and Whitney mentioned looking into the parents of criminals for some indication. Have you seen what one of the Columbine moms is doing? It's a long watch, but I'd be interested to hear what y'all think." She is completely in denial about her role in the formation of her child as a murderer. That's what I gleaned from the short video. That to me is
like a big indicator that you are.
She gave a TED talk about how any child could be a mass murderer and you'd never know.
Somebody's projecting.
And her husband didn't stay together because they had irreconcilable beliefs about what happened, I guess. Because she was like, I played no part in this. I was not. I'm sure.
I can't imagine the emotional turmoil that. And
but like
suffering.
They went through, like in this video, they showed so much evidence, like years prior to the Columbine happening, like these two young men making videos, shooting stuff, and like writing on their website all the people they wanted to kill.
Name me one person who hasn't had one fleck of evidence that they were going to do something before.
Yeah, but in this video, this dude says this is like the first time, because like a year before it happened, the parents of another kid who made it on the list of like people that they were going to kill, like brought the evidence to the cops. Like,
a year before it
happened, showed him all this stuff, and nobody did anything to prevent it.
The bowling alley guy, which none of us talked about because a bunch of innocent people getting massacred by assault rifles is now just like, oh yeah, really commonplace. He had all sorts of fucking red flags and issues, and then nobody did anything. I don't know the specifics because I'm not putting that shit in my fucking dome right now.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, we have to start having consequences. We have to start holding the police departments and the detectives responsible. Who received this evidence? Who didn't do anything? Who dropped the ball? You will be criminally charged.
Yeah.
There has to be consequence. We can't just keep going like, well, this person, on top of 100 other things that should be done.
Well, it also brings to mind that movie Minority Report, and like, how do you hold someone accountable for something they haven't done yet?
Well,
I don't know.
The slippery slope of mass murders.
Like, what does prevention look like in that way?
Lucas, what do you know about the guy that shot up the bowling alley? Like,
the Marine? He just had history of mental illness, and he left the military on
AWOL?
Disruptive, like, bad terms. Like
and he still acquired a weapon?
Yes.
Legally?
It's like, well, I'm sure he already had them.
Right.
He was someone that, it's like, I don't understand how these people just keep doing it. It's like,
that's the big question. Yeah.
Why are we not doing
Well, you have to have consequence too. It's like if you're on YouTube and you're commenting, I'm going to blow up this fucking place. Well, you got to be, cops are coming for you. Like, you can't just keep assuming that all the empty threats will be taken seriously. Like those.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that would require like the creation of new laws. Oh, I don't know what, like the laws that govern language look like.
What is that yelling fire in a crowded theater? That law is old as hell.
Yeah. Because there's libel, there's slander. To what extent can you charge someone with the gravity of like threats?
Yeah, or just hold them. You're gonna be held
until
for
you
2
prove
weeks.
to us that you're not a threat.
Bye.
Like, I'm totally down for that. I just don't know what it would look like.
The same thing with the person who shot up that school.
Sandy Hook?
No, the one after that, but in the same region, the one that just happened last year.
The one in Maine?
But she had, her friend called the cops and said she's going to shoot up the school, and the cops went, okay, well, we're busy today, we'll get there tomorrow, and then murdered a bunch of kids.
Gee whiz. I didn't mean to start it off on that type of feeling.
Last MAWPOD ever? No.
Maybe. If Lydia proves to be a pill.
What? No way.
She won't be a pill. And we'll never stop MAWPOD.
We'll never stop MAWPOD. Well, this will be the longest running podcast ever.
Yes.
Longer
than The Simpsons.
There's like where I pay to host all the episodes, they like shoot you weekly emails. And they're like supposed to be motivating, but they kind of are. It's like the MAWPOD has superseded 80% of most podcasts because most people give up after less than 10 episodes or whatever.
Let's go.
But we don't do this for you. We do it for us.
The key is to do it for yourself.
The key is to do it for yourself. Yeah, that Rick Rubin book. Ooh, I should grab that.
Is it, how far into it are you?
Finally, I'm like 100 pages in, and he said some shit that like
it's hitting.
Really starts resonating, because I think you and I are in a strange subcategory where I work for somebody now whose YouTube is a job. We're not that. We like to create. We're creators.
Yeah.
So but he talks about that because there's singers who don't sing as a job. They sing because they have to.
Yes.
And talking about like the vulnerability and how that vulnerability is what separates you from the rest. Mm-hmm. And I can feel that. And it's just validating knowing that it's not it's not just us.
Yeah. I've always wanted to like have a conversation with somebody who is a content creator, like on the reg
as a job,
and like they do it, like they schedule posts and like they create things with the intention of distributing it at a specific time, and like how that has either like numbed them or how that has either like,
let me grab the book,
made it more like a job. And I don't want it to be my job, because once it becomes my job, then I don't think I'll want to do it anymore. I only want to do it when it's fun.
I think those people, they're just so different from us.
Where they get jobby with their hobby.
Where it's like, I'm going to do this as a job. And I've met so many of those people, and that's what they do. And I'm like, I'm not like you. Like, obviously it would be nice to have people who would help you do stuff and distribute, just like I brought up with like galleries and what works and what doesn't. And if you're a performer on a stage, you want somebody to watch, you want somebody to be there. But it's like so turbocharged now. It's so crazy.
The content creation game?
Yeah.
Well, I like how it's just so easy to drop in whenever you want to. And like if you have this wild hair where you want to like fart into a camera and then just send it out, you're like,
or you could be hungover getting a fucking Whataburger. Yeah. And you can suddenly get 40,000 views.
Dude, that was nuts.
That was like one of my favorite.
I'm such a baby. What did I say?
I fucking laughed so hard when you just kept updating me how many people had liked it. I was like, oh my God.
It's like 600 people or some shit.
That was so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna schedule my haircut soon.
She's gonna schedule her haircut soon.
After Jonathan
I pulled out a book.
Davis.
I'm running on 2 out of 6 cylinders right now, so I don't even know if I could read for you guys. I could try. I can't wait to pass this book off to you.
I can't wait to fucking devour that shit.
The podcast episode Rick Rubin is on is really good too. It's inundated with ads. I was like, wow, this guy's probably got a lot of money coming in.
Wait, so who is he?
Rick Rubin produced System of a Down, Kanye West, everybody ever. Beastie Boys, I think, was his first.
So he's a producer.
He's a producer, but he's also deeply spiritual. He's also a follower of Ram Dass.
Producer is someone who is like
LL Cool J, like Public Enemy, Run DMC, 9 Inch Nails, Red Hot Chili Peppers, AC/DC, Slayer, Johnny Cash, System of a Down, I said that already, Danzig.
Nice.
I mean, he's worked Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit. I mean, every hit was almost under his belt. Metallica.
What actual role did he play?
He's a producer.
But what does that mean?
Every album you've ever heard has a producer. So it's somebody who unearths and mitigates and helps the artist create songs.
Is it like a musical director?
Yeah.
So they're like, let's do that again, but can you put more like drop D on it?
Or like I've got artists will come to you with half a baked idea and then you have to like help them.
That's cool.
Like to me, I never give a shit about who sang it. Like who's the producer.
Huh.
Same thing with Blink-182. There's a stark difference between what albums were produced by Jerry Finn and which ones weren't.
That's nuts. I've never thought about a producer before.
Rihanna's never written her own song ever. Like that's why it's so funny. It's like we have this conceived notion that like artists are doing anything. And it's like no. And that Sia, she's written for all the big ladies, and then she started coming out with her own stuff.
She wrote that Rihanna song, Diamonds Shine Bright Like a Diamond.
Isn't it crazy that like one person can make so many crazy hits?
I often think about Sia. She's been one of my favorites since high school. She had an album called Color the Small One, and me and my friend Shandy used to listen to it and like play Sims. And when I loved how when Sia broke into the mainstream, she started to hide her face.
Yeah, because you almost want to retreat back to being behind the scenes where your talent is. It's to me, it's like the ideal job.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
the ideal job. Everybody wants to work with you because...
And you parade someone else out in front of you so that they catch all the weird shit.
Yes.
And you get to keep creating without anybody like...
Don't leave me alone. Yeah.
What is it?
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao. With love and peace. Ciao. You know? Like, that's pretty ideal.
I went to get certified at a production school, and I really was considering producing, but it's like
producing music.
Yeah, because I really wanted that gig.
So do producers have record labels? Like who controls a record label?
You know who I was looking up yesterday was
Peter Diddley.
Peter Diddley. Was it Quincy Jones?
Dude, Q. The ladies call him Q.
Dude. Quincy Jones fucking just...
He's even more prolific than Rick Rubin.
Yes. I mean, he wrote every banger from Michael Jackson. He's got like 80 Emmy nominations.
But he also made Norah Jones.
Norah Jones. I mean, like that
his daughter
was fucking on fire.
Murphy wants to say something. What are you going to say? He loves Norah Jones. That's beautiful, honey. Okay, lay down. Okay, how's that? Is that good?
Quincy Jones.
There was an episode of Arrested Development where what was Mo's last name? She was on Mad TV, but she was playing a model in Arrested Development who was obsessed with Quincy Jones. And she was like, visions of Q. I don't know. It's just, everything's connected in my brain. Dude, there was a cool thing that happened yesterday. So my friend Gloria, I met her working at Mojo at the brewery.
Yes.
and she got inspired to like throw herself into her baking, and through that impulse she met dude,
just get him down. He's bothering me. What does he want?
he wants to be comfortable. So she started to get into baking, and I don't know how, but through her baking she did a pop-up with another one of my friends named New, who she started working at Tycoon and Salty Sow around the same time that I was doing that. So I met New. Yes. Okay. So I met New years and years ago, and then those little tamale things that she gave you to give to me, thingies. New made those.
That's what she said.
And yes. I did not know that, and I ate them, and they're so good. And I was like, dude, what were those? And she was like, New made them. And I was like, you know New? What? But they like do bakery pop-ups together. So I reached out to New, and she wants to do some kind of collabo bit with Let's Eat. And it's like, the world is so small and beautiful sometimes, and we're all connected by our passions.
Yes. That's why it's important to unearth your passion and expose it so people can look at your dick and then be like, oh, me too. Just kidding. I don't want to see your dick. But I think
some people take things too literally. We don't want dick pics ever.
No.
Ever.
No. Nobody wants mud flap pictures though either. My fucking roommate used to show me pictures he would get from ladies, and I'm like, I need to live alone. Like, I do not need to see.
Not to startle you, but people ask for puss pics all the time from me.
Why do you?
Not to startle you.
I'm not startled, but
and I'm always like, God bless. Not today.
Sometimes I want to just immediately get away from the internet as fast as fucking possible, because I swear to God, there are some roly-polies I don't need to see. But
yeah.
What were we talking about before puss and dick pics?
Unearthing your passion. And the analogy that you relate to it, I thought was a little problematic. Show us your dick.
No. We like to exist. It's why we're content creators. We think that nobody's watching, and it's kind of where we prefer to be.
That's how I post. I pretend like no one will see it.
And I think that's why we maybe attract the people that we do.
We love you.
Oops.
We love you.
Are we too vulnerable? That's okay. We're doing the Lord's work.
I think the vulnerability is essential, as you pointed out. Because if it's not authentic, if it doesn't come from a place that's honest, then it's yucky. Like, who wants to watch some fake ass shit where you're putting on a mask?
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
And that, I feel like, is what would have inevitably happened if it was your job. Like, you'd have to put on a mask.
At Yummy Noob, he was like, what's your name? And I was like, Whitney. He's like, well, no. Like, your name for the internet so that you can hide your identity. And I was like, why would I do that?
I understand why you would.
But I was like, one quick white pages search and you can find out who I am. Like, I don't.
It's true.
It's, you can't really be all on the internet and then expect to be completely anonymous.
It's true.
So I chose to just be myself because it felt strange choosing a different name.
Yeah, I can't think of another name that would fit you.
Yeah, right? It's like, oh, I don't know. What the fuck?
Freydis the Viking warrior princess.
Dumb slut for peanut butter checks. Lucas was laughing last night. I was like, what? He's like, remember that time you called me at HEB and you said you were a dumb slut for peanut butter checks? I was like, yep.
That's my wife.
Yep, that was like last week, my guy.
He's super emotional and reflective now.
He is very, very, very tender today, and he was very tender yesterday. And I was like, oh, that shit's just hitting you that this, like, I've been knowing that these are my last days with just Ruby for 8 months. I've been soaking it all up. So.
I can't wait to see their dynamic. I know it'll grow and shift and change, but it's cool to think about a little partnership about to form.
I went to a metaphysical it was just like a fun, like, spooky thing that they did last night. And we went to this building, Madrone Coffee. It was built in like 1850. And Sarah just looks at me and she goes, Wednesday. And I was like, shut the fuck up. She goes, Wednesday.
Do you feel like if she's not born on Wednesday, like, what does that mean about Sarah's prediction?
I don't know. I don't take Sarah's prediction as 100% true, but Sarah doesn't know my due date. We've never talked about it or anything. I've never brought up. So it's crazy that she is at least bringing it up, because yesterday she dropped, which means that their heads are getting ready. They're like sitting right on your fucking cloaca, man. It is the strangest sensation.
Yes,
you're like,
Whitney has a cloaca.
I have a cloaca. And for $79.95 you can get a picture of it. And you're like, okay, I created a brain and a skull and a spinal cord, and now it's sitting on top of the exit, and you're like, what do I do? So yesterday I was pretty uncomfortable, but I thought she might be on her way.
So she's still in position, right?
Yeah.
Well, hell, man, I'm as ready as I'll ever be. How about you?
Major surgery is such a bummer, but it's like birth is just, she's got to come out somehow, and either way it's pretty violent. So
is there any consolation to be offered knowing that everyone who is here got here?
That's when I went into the emergency situation.
Mm-hmm.
I was screaming, every mother ever. Every mother ever.
It's really a fucking trip.
Every mother ever. Yeah.
And like stories of how the Buddha was born. Like she was walking in the woods, his mother, and she like grabbed hold of a tree, a Bodhi tree, and then she just like squatted out this little white elephant. It's crazy. Wow. It's crazy to be a woman, to have a womb. Yeah. I'm in awe. What do you think Murphy's mother looked like?
I don't know. I think about Murphy as a puppy a lot. I grew up with puppies, and they ate everything and peed everywhere, and they were such a fucking pain.
And their little claws are sharp.
And it's like a full-time job to have a puppy. But I thought about Davis as a puppy. You're like, oh my God, you must have been so cute.
Puppy D.
Murphy is a tiny little potato pup suckling at his little puppy mommy titty.
He looks like an anteater in my mind.
Squishy potato man.
Murphyless. Wasn't that only a couple years ago for him?
2 years ago, yeah.
My little guy. When we first met, it was a little tumultuous, but we get each other now.
Tables have turned, but I'm just
I grew up a little bit.
I'm a frustrated pregnant woman. I'm like, get the fuck away from me. What do you need? Well, I also got carpal tunnel really bad. So
when?
He's constantly, just like the other week. I was like, God damn it, I almost made it without getting it. But I'm like trying to play fetch with him, and I'm like, ugh, my fingers.
So tomorrow is La Toussaint, or All Saints Day, which is like a Catholic holiday.
I don't know shit about saints, because I was watching some Unexplained. There's a new season about saint bones, and there's so many saints, and I was like, how do you become a saint? Do you just get recognized for like your...
It's a long process of verification, and then what is it called? Bonification.
How quickly can you make God come? And then that's your duty as a saint.
You have to perform miracles.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You have to have
There's
verified.
So many saints.
You have to have verified miracles.
There's a church in Pennsylvania that has like 500 saint skeleton parts.
And they're kept in things called reliquaries. So
it is pretty cool looking.
My food blog, when I first started writing my food blog in like 2015. It's
in
called
1992.
Food for the Reliquary, because it linked up religion and food. So I would just talk about food from sort of a religious perspective. I've tried to log back in and like add to it, but I can't.
You often get shut out of the.
It's not my forte. It's definitely not my specialite to like access something that's been password locked. But yeah, saints have been a focus of my studies for a long time. I have a couple of saint books. Every day is a feast day for some saint in the Catholic tradition, because before the Protestant Reformation, Catholicism had these 3 or 4 different worlds that it was in charge of. I guess it's not technically in charge of hell, but earth,
or is it?
The garden of earthly delights, purgatory, and heaven. So purgatory is where you go.
All the cool people hang out.
Yeah, it's like people who existed before Jesus Christ, that when they die, they go to purgatory because they didn't really know about the kingdom of heaven, so they get a pass.
Okay, so they put a whole line of people just because they were born in the wrong time. Wow.
Because they showed the grace of God, but they didn't actually get baptized and take the sacrament, so they couldn't go to heaven, but they're like, they don't have to go to hell. And like unbaptized babies go to purgatory. And so this doctrine of purgatory was useful because people would go to churches and they would make donations in order to get prayers from intercessors, basically saints, the cult of saints, but also the Virgin Mary. She is huge in like interceding on behalf of your loved ones who are in purgatory so that you can get them to the next level, which is heaven. And that was a huge reason why Martin Luther decided to rally against the Catholic Church, because he was like, fuck this noise. We don't have to pay for our salvation.
God, we've been doing that since the beginning, huh?
Yeah.
It's like fucking.
But it's like
dangling a coin.
When you come up with a good idea and it's like on a small scale, it's like how a mom and pop store becomes fucking Walmart and takes over
Hobby
the world.
Lobby.
It's like, you should have stopped at some point. You shouldn't have let it get this far. And that's exactly what happened to the Catholic Church. Like, you should have stopped at some point and known, like, this has gotten out of hand. Instead, there's like reactions and I don't know.
Here's what I want to know too. We have Mary Magdalene's skeleton, allegedly.
Who?
A church. They have it. It is crazy looking.
How can you verify that it's her?
Skull. It's in France, where the naked ladies dance.
There's a hole in the
Look
wall.
at this. Can you see it? It's so crazy. She looks like an astronaut.
Okay, and now tell me how they got it. In like the medieval historical books,
this like bird. There's like
that's a symbol for the Holy Spirit. You laugh because it's a cursor or whatever, but that's a symbol for the Holy Spirit.
Mary Magdalene's jawbone had been sent to Rome after a previous excavation of her tomb and before the Saracen invasion of 710 AD, when all important relics in France were hidden. In Rome, Mary Magdalene's jawbone had been venerated for centuries. With the news of the 1279 discovery, Pope Boniface the 7th or 8th.
How many lines?
3. Returned the jawbone to Saint Maximum La Sante Baum. And on April 6, 1295, it was reunited with the skull of Mary Magdalene. And the Pope had published the pontifical bull for the establishment of the Dominicans at St. Baum and St. Maxen.
This is my shit.
So we should go see it. But I want to... Okay, so we have no proof of Jesus. Like, we have no idea. I mean, obviously, according...
Lots of testimony.
A shit ton of testimony. Which is all you need. I was reading about the cuneiform tablets that the Hobby Lobby dude bought, and scientists were saying, they're like, these are so old we don't know what to tell you. We don't know what city this predates all the information they have.
It wasn't fraudulent in that they were faked. It was fraudulent in that they were stolen from a museum in Iraq.
Yes, during our the American invasion.
Oh, see, I thought that they were stolen by like Islamists and sold on the black market.
I think, well, they said that the American invasion had like created this perfect scenario.
Oh, it created some disruption? I can't imagine. But like relics are like imbued with some type of holy power, you know, by proximity or by like their origins. But I think that it's entirely problematic, just like how Jerusalem is so fraught and dangerous because of its history and, you know, everything that went down there. So like people have always tried to like loot holy relics and like steal pieces of the true cross, and like,
oh my god, are there pieces of that?
There have been in history. I don't know if there are anymore.
It's in some grandma's fucking attic. Like some snide little shit got a hold of it. And
it's always been, holy relics have always been controlled by the government. And for the longest time, the government was the church, you know? Like with the fall of the Roman Empire, or with the degradation and sort of the dissolution of the Roman Empire, the Catholic Church took over government. So instead of having like a mayor or a governor, you would have a bishop. And so they would be in charge of your spiritual well-being, but also your physical, material well-being. And that's really scary. And you don't know how to read. You can't read the Bible. All you do is listen to what they say. And if they say,
and that's why it's time to kick it, because it's like, come on, guys, like this was written in a completely different time.
Well, yeah, I think people always forget the context in which something was created. And if you remember the context, then you can sort of warp it, morph it to work more for your context, you know? But like that dude who they just elected to be the Speaker of the House, I think, Mike somebody from Georgia or Alabama, on Hannity, he was on Sean Hannity's show, he was like, so what are your what's your outlook, or like what's your belief system? And he was like, pick up the Bible, that's my worldview. Just read anything in the Bible, that's my worldview.
It's the fun thing to hide behind. It's
like, have you read the Bible? There's so many fucking contradictory things.
I want to Matrix style download it, because I don't want to read it. I don't want to know what's in it, because I'm going to be like, I know for a fact I'm going to get so fucking mad that like this.
Let it wash over you.
This is what you guys are fucking fawning over, versus like reading the Bhagavad Gita or parts of it. You're like, wow, this is like really deep, good stuff to live by. That's just like, it's not about how you can fuck, who you can fuck, when you know, don't do this, don't do that. The Bhagavad Gita is very more like, you know, sit quietly with, I don't know, just actual spiritual guidance versus a bunch of fucking outdated rules.
And that's what the Old Testament focuses on. It's like how to live, you know, like, because it was meant for the governance of the Jewish people.
Right.
It's like, this is our heritage. Here's what's acceptable to our people. These are our customs. This is how we stay alive. This is how we last. This is our lasting power. So that's why their God is like this vengeful, like, you must worship me and no one else. Like, that's how you remain, like, that's how you establish continuity. You inspire fear in the hearts of man. Because if they're afraid, then they don't want to go against.
Right.
But then the New Testament is like, God is love. And everybody has just bent it to be a tool to control.
Yeah, you've seen how many priests that were turned out to be fucking little kids. I mean, it's an egregious amount.
Yeah, it's
It's
terrifying.
now just become more to me like a costume for people to wear than anything else.
I do believe that there are a lot of good people who
Yes.
enter into the priesthood and into monasteries and become nuns and monks. A lot of good people who actually care about their communities and do things to help. But there's a lot of people in every industry, in every walk of life, who uses everyone's preconceived notions of this role in society to take advantage of others.
Yes.
Everywhere, always. Like, there are good CEOs. I'm sure of it. Not everybody who's a CEO is a fucking
I like
psychotic
there was a
maniac.
CEO in Japan. He was a CEO of a airline, and instead of laying off 1,200 people or whatever,
He laid himself off.
he like just didn't pay himself for 2 years or whatever. And
Wow.
it's like that made news, and you're like, well, I don't know if I had this company was mine, and if it was changing and altering 1,200 people's lives, or me just not getting a fucking paycheck.
That is baller.
It just seems natural, but I'm a woman.
Right.
Lucas and I were talking yesterday about the differences between working for Yummy Noob and Doodle.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my fucking God. They're so different. I was like, this whole time I could have been working for a woman.
Yeah.
Not to say all women are this way,
Right,
or
right.
all men are this way or whatever, but because they're not.
Because it probably also is related to, their upbringing and their fucking everything.
Yes.
But,
yes,
yeah.
100%. Eric was carrying around some mad trauma. So,
But Doodle is very impressive as a person.
yeah, just
what you've said about her.
so just in tune and thoughtful, and you're like, wow, okay, yeah.
So this is your job.
Somebody breathing down my neck telling me everything I do is fucking garbage. That's not. Oh, okay.
That's not how you get good work out of people? What?
Strange.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I made some notes for you today.
What kind of notes, babe?
Some MAWPOD notes. Let's see. I love my notebook. I love to book
You're almost
it.
fucking done with it.
I know, it's
Every
so
time
cool.
you sit down, I'm like, oh, you've got 10 pages left.
Where's my last MAWPOD section? That's the worst part. So, I talked to my brother on the phone yesterday. He's not doing too good.
What's going on?
He's just really lonely and sad because his cellie up until this point has been this dude named Paco. And him and Paco are pretty good friends, and like they joke really well, and they had this really good back and forth. And they just like were a comfort to each other, But Paco got transferred.
Oh.
So, and it's the first time he's been transferred in like 6 years.
Come on, man.
So that comfort is gone. And then Josh also has this friend named who, actually, I don't know if I want to say names. Can you redact that?
I can.
So he has this other friend who got out. He's on the outside. And he has this girlfriend who, has told Josh that she's going to work with like a lawyer that she knows of and like work to get stuff going. And I guess she dropped off the face of the earth too. So
Probably hit some sort of barrier and then...
Well, she's a junkie. And I told Josh that he shouldn't put his heart into a basket with a junkie at the wheel. A lot of analogies there, but you get it. And like, all due respect to junkies across the world, I think that you
But also no.
you might be capable of more than you think, but will you do that thing you think you're capable of doing?
No.
Who's to say?
Somebody who was raised by junkies, no, they won't.
And, Josh is a self-professed junkie, and he should know that you can't trust a junkie.
No.
Not with your whole outcome.
No.
So I tried
But he doesn't get any hope. So I guess it's like, doesn't matter who it's coming from.
Yeah, like she's saying she's going to get in touch with this lawyer or whatever. And, but she was also like giving him...
Can't Josh get in touch with a lawyer? I mean, don't people from the inside constantly write letters?
I think he's just looking for a name and like information on who he can contact. Like she has a specific lawyer in mind, but I've been like Facebook messaging her trying to get that information out of her, and she always just goes dead.
So it might not exist, because how hard would it be to hand over a name and a number?
Right. So he called me yesterday and he was really down, and I was like, well, I made this sculpture of a beehive, and I made pumpkin soup, and I'm gonna go as Jonathan Davis for Halloween. And he's like, oh, okay, that's cool, man. Yeah, that's cool, man. And like, I don't really know what solace I can offer him, because
does he have access to the internet or no? That sucks.
He has a player where he can buy songs.
Why does this lawyer specifically work with like people who
I don't know what makes
minimums?
This specific lawyer so attractive. I don't know. Because I've contacted different groups, like advocacy groups for people who were charged not as minors, but like people on the cusp of being a minor. My brother was 20 years old when he got 7 felony charges, but that has not gone anywhere. Like that avenue doesn't really go anywhere. And he's tried to do an appeal before, but then the appeal got botched somehow because of I don't know. I don't know.
It sucks that it's just like, I don't know, that does he have access to books?
Yeah. I think they have a library, but also I'll send him any book he asks for. I just sent him Dr. Sleep. And as soon
I'm
as
just trying to think, like, okay, you want to explore your legal options, which you do have them, and I'm sure I could talk to Hannah again or Curtis, like my 2 lawyer friends, to see if like something for him to work on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But he's kind of got to like,
he needs to show his own initiative. And that's what my mom's been saying. But I don't know what it's like to be in prison for 16 years. I'm proud of him that he got clean in prison. And I'm sure he was close to death many times through his experiences. And he hasn't shared like the most violent experiences that he's had, but he's alluded to them. So I'm just proud of him that he's still alive. And that I don't want to ask more of him. Like he needs
No. And it's not your job to ask more of him. I'm just speaking in like a different way. It's like, man, I would love to just, here's the thing. Now go forth.
Yeah, that would be the dream
your
scenario.
letters.
It's like, here's everything you need.
Now you got to do it.
Now work.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so I brought up these 2 topics that were on my mind with him, and it was like it kept on breaking up and cracking out. And I was like, agency versus instinct. What are your thoughts? And he's like, what are you saying? What is agency? And I'm like, oh, agency is like you make a decision to do this or that. Like you use your willpower to intervene, or like it's like a conscious decision to act and do something, versus instinct, which is subconscious. It's innate. It's something natural. It's like getting angry or flying south for the winter, you know? It's like, how can we sort of learn more about our human instincts to figure out more about our own nature, and like not like the meaning of life, because I don't think there is one like really succinct all unifying meaning of life, but I think if we knew more about our instincts and what is natural as far as our biological composition goes, then we could know ourselves better. And I don't know if like harness is the right word, but just sort of like rise to the top and sort of oversee, like be a better overseer of our behaviors.
Just awareness.
Yeah, like more awareness of what we can expect being human beings, instead of like something happening and your reaction is X, and then like being disappointed and sad that you behave that way, instead of like
In therapy, they call it responding instead of reacting.
Oh, yeah. What's the difference there?
Somebody does something shit and you're like, oh, fuck you. This is over. I'm done, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's no lag time versus, like, somebody does something that pisses me off. I'm like, okay. I'm giving space. I realize what they're doing. How do I feel? And then I'm going to respond.
Yeah.
Like, it's what I had to start doing with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Because the just reacting, which is what everybody's doing all the time,
yeah,
is not the appropriate way.
I walked by my neighbor's door yesterday, I think, and it was like 8 in the morning on a Saturday, and like the stairs go down right by their door, so like I couldn't not hear.
I love hearing about your neighbors.
They were just screaming their heads off at each other about something. Like the woman was like, "Well, you see me doing this and that, and the man was like, oh, and I always see him when I get home at night. He's always sitting in his car, like the engine's on. He's just like scrolling his phone, sitting in his car. And I see a lot of people in my neighborhood, in my apartment complex, doing that because we live in studios. So if you have a partner in there and you just got off work, you need to wind down by yourself, so you sit in your car before you go in. Isn't that wild? Like, that's the only place you can be alone and not at work, not at home. You just sit in your car until you're ready to go be with your partner.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And so, I don't know, hearing them argue so early in the morning, it just made me feel like, at once, like, grateful that I am alone and I have my own space. I don't know, but also like wishing that, I don't know, just like empathizing for their situation. Like, I wish that you guys could see each other's perspectives instead of screaming at each other so early on a Saturday morning.
I think lack of foresight is the reason for most suffering. The inability to just like zoom out a little bit, maybe plan a little bit. Maybe.
Zoom out is huge.
You know, but people find themselves in situations where they're less and less and less resourced emotionally.
Well, also when your partner is right there inside the...
Well, I wonder, this is how my brain works. So I'll jump in the Whitney brain. How much is your rent?
Like
$1,100?
Yeah, $1,100.
You're splitting that with somebody? It's like, what the fuck do you guys do? I don't know. It's just like,
maybe one of them doesn't do anything. I don't know.
There's no kids.
Some people have, I've seen like 3 kids.
Oh, they have 3 kids.
Not in their spot, but in another apartment. Like, people do have kids in these tiny studios.
There's talk just about your people. I'm like, okay, if you guys are both single, no kids.
Why do you force yourself to...
Dairy Queen's $18 an hour. Like, I know for a fact you could afford more than $500 a month.
Yeah, and it would be cute if you guys had 2 studios right next to each other. Then you'd have your own space.
There's something else going on there where there's not... what's... I don't know what's...
I don't know.
Then you start digging into that stuff. You're like, I don't want.
It just makes me so
none of my
sad,
business.
because growing up, hearing my parents holler at each other, I like hear other people holler at each other, and I'm like, oh no.
It is the strangest way to communicate.
Yeah, I've never hollered at anybody.
I don't think Lucas and I have raised our voices at each other in years and years and years.
It's just like a sad way to try and get your point across. It's like, ew, why are you...
As a mom, I've yelled a lot, but that's different.
You need to get their attention. But maybe that's why people holler at each other too. Like, they perceive that their partner is...
But they're both adults, so they both could just turn the volume down.
Right.
You know, like Ruby's swinging from the ceiling and...
Yeah, well, how do you de-escalate a situation? I don't know. It's just something that I heard.
Well, we talk about you're being triggered by the screaming, and then you're also just like, man, what is there to fight about? That's that you know, maybe don't be together. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, if that's really what's happening, is this relationship worth fighting for? Are you guys married? We should go talk to them. That should be our first. That should be our first guest on the podcast.
Hello.
Hey,
At the
guys.
beginning of October, they put a sign on their door that said
fucking.
feeling thankful. Like, feeling thankful. And every time I'd walk by it, I thought it said awful. Feeling awful. And then it started to peel. Like, it started to peel off.
Because it was from Hobby Lobby.
I was like, whoa, that is literally physically deteriorating.
The energy.
Right. And then they, like, put tape over it. So it's like a metaphor for their relationship. But I saw the dude as I was walking back to my apartment. I had those sunglasses on that Emma let me borrow for Halloween, like my Matrix sunglasses. And I was stoned to the bone. I had Chipotle, like a bag of Chipotle in my hand.
You had chips and then a bowl, right?
Yeah. And so I walked past the dude, and he's like, all right, feeling good? And I was like, yeah. So, I don't know. My relationship with my neighbors is... Another one of my neighbors, like, forced me to take a joint that he had gotten from Willie Nelson. I was watching the rain.
I am so sick of fucking Willie Nelson, by the way. I just, like,
I know.
everybody's like,
God bless.
he
Just
farted
leave him
here
alone.
once. I'm like, okay. It's everybody's claim to fame down here. I'm like, I don't
I was
care.
just sitting watching the rain, not doing anything. And he's like, Megan, hey. And he has like this ritual of like drinking a big beer and whatever.
A 40.
And he was like smoking this little roach, and he was like handed it to me, and I was like, no, I'm all good. Like, no worries, brother. You keep that for yourself. And he's like, no, I insist. This girl I was seeing, her father is a roadie for Willie Nelson.
That's disgusting. That
And I was
don't
like,
fucking want
that's
it.
really cool, but I don't want it. And he's like, please, you've got to take it. Please, you have, it's from Willie Nelson. I really want to give it to you. And so I was like, all right, thanks. And he goes inside, and I just put it in my flower pot and then like keep on watching the rain. And he comes back out, and I'm like, what's up? Like, can you just stay inside and leave me alone?
Okay, so I'm low-key on a mission to get John Paul to find Megan a house. Because
I just need a small space. Like, I don't need a whole house. Like,
But
it would be...
Here's the thing. Doesn't have to be a big house. I just know what Aaron has done to his house. I know you would do it times a billion.
I know. It would be covered in like sculptures of crows and like
cute little house. 800 square feet. I mean, just, it's not anything.
If that exists, I would love to have that.
I don't picture you in a fucking megadome or anything.
Well,
just
like whenever I think about living in a house by myself, I'm like, I imagine this kind of space. And I'm like, what the fuck do I need all this space for? I don't need...
It's about just getting you your own little slice of paradise. And
when I close my door...
JP, big dog. He's in your life. He's in your paradigm. He will fucking make it happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a whole thing.
It is a whole thing.
It's a
lot.
Whole thing.
But I am here for it, and I am like, I see houses, I'm like, ooh, Megan could live there.
And I'd want Ruby to come over and like do Mimi stuff. Like, I have a whole list of stuff that I want to do, and I know it would be amazing. But then my trajectory for the next 20 years would be paying a mortgage.
You're paying rent. I get my
But
mortgage.
I could leave at any time I want and go teach English in France. You know what I mean?
No, because you can leave your house at any time and rent it out, or you could sell it. But here's the cool thing. You get your fucking money back.
That's cool.
That's the whole reason why I wanted a house, is because I calculated how much I've blown on rent.
Yeah.
40 grand in 10 years. Probably more than that.
Yeah.
If I sell this now, I get all my money back. So if you wanted to go to France, you could just rent it out, or you could sell it, and somebody would buy it and then buy.
She wants me to become a homeowner.
It's not as scary as you think. That's why.
But what if my foundation crack?
Mine's cracked. I don't give a fuck. It's also not that expensive to fix.
I think it would be really cool, and I would probably replace the carpet in the hallway with sod. And install a bunch of skylights.
I picture Harriet Spy's, what was that, her aunt or some shit?
Oh yeah, it was Rosie O'Donnell.
Her house. Like, that's Megan's house. I just it's not scary.
There's like
it's not a ball and chain. It'd be a ball and chain if you were in middle of nowhere, Ohio, or Gary, Indiana. But when you're in this city, it's like your house will always sell. My house is already $100,000 more than what I paid for. So it's like you put value in something, and then you're gonna make it your own, and you can do whatever you want, and you don't have any creepy neighbors follow it. Like that dude that was like,
that dude disappeared.
Good. I'm glad, but I like get
that
pissed.
Was so weird.
I get pissed at but I lived alone, and it was the same thing. There's fucking dudes that are always coming by. And I bought a bunch of guns because it was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I'm not dealing with this shit. These fucking sexually
starved incelious
predators.
Yeah. I mean, if I had a house, I would upholster the walls with fabric. And I would make like a giant tufted headboard.
I really want this wall. I saw like this really cozy dining room, and it had folded fabric. The only thing that I'm like, what if it gets dusty? Like, I don't know how
you can get fabric that's meant for that type of purpose, so it's easy to wipe.
And then like a nice little hanging light, and then it's like a cozy little domey bit.
It's a nook.
As I grow my family, I'm like, where are we supposed to eat?
Yeah.
There's no dining room in here. I don't understand.
Yeah, what was the plan for, I guess, this right here, eh?
I don't know.
That door really throws things off.
Well, that's where the extension's going to go, so.
We growing. But agency and instinct.
Anyways.
I don't know. I always go back to this one quote from one of my favorite books ever.
Hannah wants to get a house with you.
Whoa, Hannah!
Dude, if Hannah moved down here, you'd have...
Oh.
That would be a dream come true. Hannah, move on down. Did you leave, Hannah?
Hannah would be okay if my mom lived in a hobbit hole in the backyard.
Yeah, get something like that. Get some with... Well, they call it the what? The mother-in-law.
The mother-in-law suite. She's more than a mother-in-law.
Oh, no, Hannah's here. She says, yes, please.
Let's go, babe.
Hannah, do you know any lawyers that Josh could talk to?
Do you know any lawyers that aren't that busy?
That's the issue, too, I guess, is like money. Anyway, sorry, agency and instinct.
No, I don't really have a point to make. It's just a concept that enters my mind a lot because
Where did this concept originate from?
I read a book called Ridley Walker. And there's this part where Ridley is talking about what's inside you, that it's like how you, like if you lived in a tribal society where everybody sleeps outside around a fire and you like hear something and then you wake up, but you're already standing up with a spear in your hand. Like, what was the thing that got you up and put the spear in your hand?
Sarah was talking about that last night.
Yeah. Like that, I've often wondered about, because like reading about dissociation and like how
Fight or flight.
Yeah, like what is that thing that kicks in and takes over for my conscious decision-making faculty? And where do I go when that thing takes over?
Somewhere safe.
I have a library inside my head.
Yeah. You go, the fight or flight, you know, we've lost our predators. Well, now they're
they're each other.
Now they're ex-military with access to guns, and they go to bowling alleys.
Our predators
That's
are
our new
ourselves
predator.
and each other.
And so now fight or flight is all in your fucking head. So your brain leaves your body, and then you go somewhere safe. So you don't have to deal with it. Which is so crazy. and I dealt with this for years too. It's like not feeling equipped to handle a skirmish. What are they called?
Skirmish, emotional skirmish. I think that works. Any kind of
we
situation.
don't feel safe enough to be like, no, this is not right. I'm standing up for what I believe in, and I feel present and resourced, and no, you can't do, it's just like so strange that how many of us have lost that.
Did we ever have it?
Thanks to the fall of polytheism. How many of us have to just cower in fear?
I think that polytheism exists alongside monotheism, because like even with these super devout Catholic traditions like the French La Toussaint and like the Dia de los Muertos, like in Mexico, like that is the syncretism of Catholicism with like the polytheistic view of like the spirit is in everything, like, and that I think they are kind of reconcilable in the fact that you acknowledge that the most powerful one is the one, but you don't deny the fact that there is power in the other ones. So I think that we still are a pretty polytheistic society to an extent, because we ascribe powers to like our dead ancestors, like that's the whole Dia de los Muertos thing, and also the 1st of November and the 2nd of November, that's all about honoring the dead. And November 1st, La Toussaint, is about All Saints, like sort of like celebrities that were powerful and dead, and we venerate them. And then November 2nd is All Souls. So that's like our departed ancestors, our friends, our family, people who are close to us. That's like that time to remember them, because there's power in the act of remembering and like calling to mind situations where they behaved quintessentially like them, and so I think that we are both and all.
Yeah, I was making a joke. I was making a joke about, you asked if we had ever had it, or wait, what did you ask? Wish I could rewind. Fight or flight, if we ever had power.
Oh, I mean like specifically us, like we lost our ability to stand our ground, but do you have that when you're born, or is that taught?
It comes from your parents not listening to you. My parents never listened to me.
So it's erased, or it's like pushed down.
Reading the effects of narcissism and like growing up in a household where you're just not listened to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you're scared right now. I'm sorry you're scared. What can we do to make you feel better?
Why are you talking to me?
Right, but that's what you're supposed to do as a parent, because you're acknowledging.
I'm going to stir that really quick.
Yeah, I know. I feel like the sound is also tripping up my like spider cooking senses. Also, why is the corn god by it? How's it doing? Is it burning?
It's on a little high.
Dude, Lucas is the king of like lighting the fucking burner to 9 and then disappearing. He went and like finished the plumbing in our bathroom. I was like, baby, you put on a pan. You can't just walk away from a pan.
I think it's quite common for the heat to be too high.
Gotta pay attention to the heat. Hannah! Murphy sees you using your hands in the kitchen, so he assumes that you are fixing him a personal, delicious meal.
It's a little bit burned on the bottom, so I don't want to scrape the whole thing.
Did you turn it down?
I put it on low, but it's still going too hard.
Maybe you could turn it off for a second.
Isn't this burner lower?
Yeah, we could move it maybe. Is that one smaller?
Yeah.
You got to use your Jonathan Davis Adidas hands to move it.
That was going too hard, brother. All right, I got something else for you.
Lay it on me.
I wrote.
I don't know how
where
many
it
minutes we have
continues.
left. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Well, I told you about like the enslaved girl versus the sister of Leif Erikson in my book. Like the
voice
pregnant
message?
lady who
Slapped her sword with a titty.
pulled out one of her titties and
Dude.
slapped it with a sword.
What a fucking bad bitch.
I wanted
Wait,
to read
I
that
don't-
quote.
Okay, tell the people what book you're reading.
I'm reading a book called The Bright Ages, which is one that I discovered just through my random meanderings through a library I'd never been to before. And I just like walked in and walked over to it and picked it up. And I was like, this is the book that I will be renting today.
Dude, she's magic.
And so it's called The Bright Ages, and it's like a historical retelling of the medieval period from a European perspective, because it's been sort of warped to benefit like the white male European white supremacist kind of movement. And so this book goes back to the primary sources, and lo and behold, there's
women
powerful
there.
women.
What?
There's powerful brown people. There's, Africans, Arabs, all these
It's almost
different.
like there was a whole world going on at
It's
that
like
time.
Everybody is trading. Everybody is learning from each other. Everybody is writing down like what they're seeing happening. So this account, this is about Freydis, sister of Leif Erikson. Leif Erikson is like this famous Viking dude who reached the Americas 500 years before Christopher Columbus to raid and trade. And so while under attack, they called it Vinland, I think. They were in Newfoundland or somewhere north in like Canada. So they're under attack, and a pregnant Freydis shouted at the men, "Why do you flee from such pitiful wretches, brave men like you? If I had weapons, I am sure I could fight better than any of you." Then she came upon a dead Viking warrior, took up his sword, pulled one of her breasts out of her bodice and slapped it with a sword, and it sent the Skraelings running in the opposite direction. This is a derogatory term that they used for the native peoples in Vinland or the Americas where they arrived. But I thought that we have been focusing on gender and race as the main determiners of your like place in society. But have we ever like touched on class? Like, of course.
Sometimes we always talk about like the people we want to eat, but not really like all the other
Right. But I mean,
layers.
Karl Marx wrote about class, and Martin Luther King was talking about class, and he got assassinated. But so I want to talk about how like there was the enslaved girl who was serially raped by the elite men of the group and then ritually murdered on a ship next to her master. But then there's also Freydis, and they exist in the same society. And slavery has been an institution in civilization since civilization began. So I feel like class, and it's hard to like look back on the Middle Ages with our own conception of what class is. Like the what are our class distinctions called? Middle,
upper and lower.
Oh, that's it?
In America?
Yeah.
Upper, middle, and lower.
Oh, right. Okay, and so it reminds me of Theodora, who was that totally badass lady who was performer, comedian, singer.
Yes.
And so like those stories of like her provocative sexual, whore like floor show where she sprinkled grain on her private parts, whatever. Like those were written by her detractors,
Right.
most likely.
Right.
But she came from the lower classes and became the
She climbed the
empress
ranks.
of
Yeah.
the literal.
You got to be a badass bee to do that.
You have to have an iron will.
Yes.
And that brings me back to like this concept of agency versus instinct, because I think willpower is you can override instinct with willpower. I saw something written that was like,
I don't think most people know that.
right. But I feel like that is getting at the key of how to like be the arbiter of your own destiny. I saw something written where it was probably on Quora. I'm just like scrolling through Quora.
What's Quora?
Just like a place like Reddit where
Oh,
people ask questions and answer questions, whatever. Someone wrote that destiny is your height and free will is your weight, and you're kind of like in control of your weight, but you can't really change your height.
Free will is height?
Destiny is like predestination, sort of.
Okay,
is height.
Lucas was just bringing up predestination. He thinks it's so fucking freaky because you've asked me this. Do I think we have free will or do I think things are predetermined? And I'm
Yeah.
I'm down to clown for either. I don't really give a fuck.
Yeah.
Because either way, I don't know. So
Right.
I'm here to fuck around and find out. But Lucas thinks it's the creepiest fucking thing if everything's predetermined. Because to him, it's like, well, then who's controlling it? And I'm like, I don't know. A cucumber in space. You know,
Well,
I like
yeah.
to think about I don't know, nothing freaks me out, I guess, but it's
If predestination was real or actual,
I think it's so complex if you were to peek at the gears of reality and see free will, because like what if you have a near-death experience or you go into a coma, or
it was preordained.
for you to awaken and change your path, or the accident. Yeah,
If it is a predestined sort of life, then everything that happens was supposed to happen. And that's what kind of wrecks it. Because
but
like,
does
wait,
it wreck it because you don't know, but nobody has handed you a map and said this is your next 40 years.
I don't
Then
want that.
Well, nobody wants that, but that's why it's not wrecked, because I don't know what the next steps are.
And that reminds me of the Matrix and the Oracle. She's like, you didn't come here to make the choice. You already made the choice. You're here to understand why you made the choice.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, so I don't have any power to change it. I'm just here to understand it.
Dude, that sounds so sick. Dude, we are going trick-or-treating. We're a couple.
I'm
today.
so excited to
She's
be
Jonathan Davis.
Your Jonathan Davis.
I'm Fred Durst.
Did you know they have a really gross song called All in the Family? It's so fucked up. It's such a fucked up song.
Why? Is it about incest?
Yeah.
I can't. Okay, I can't handle the incest stuff because that stuff just makes me want to light Earth on fire.
It's the most taboo, disgusting, like, against.
Why can't we let kids just fucking be kids?
That's true, and we absolutely should, but incest doesn't always have to do with pedophilia.
Oh, you mean like adults?
It could be consenting adults.
I don't.
Who are
That's
related
the
to
end of
each
that
other.
Conversation.
I don't know.
Bringing that on my fucking podcast.
Sorry. I always think about that song, All in the Family.
I haven't heard it, and now I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, it's yucky. It's yucky.
Yuck!
Oh,
wait, are you saying it's a Limp Bizkit Korn crossover song?
Yes.
I'm not surprised that it's yucky then.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jonathan Davis wrote a lot of really, really
Yucky
disturbing
stuff.
songs. Oh, but so there's all these paradoxical human instincts that I wrote about. So just like a color wheel has complementary colors, whatever. So the opposite of our instinct for aggression is peacemaking. The opposite for our instinct for altruism is selfishness. And the opposite for our instinct for competition is cooperation. And that, I don't know, it just reminds me that everything has to be held in balance. Like, you can be both. You should be both.
You should always be both.
You should be both, and you should not swing too far in one direction.
Always. That's the whole Buddhist practice, is never swinging too far into one thing or the other. That's why there's some Buddhists who are some of the most
Yes. You could say it. They're prolific.
There's some Buddhist monks who are just like excellent fighters.
Shaolin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you guys watch this, you
need to turn it off.
Her baby's gonna be on the outside of her body.
Oh, thank fucking God.
So in these parting words, we say a prayer for the hopeful, beautiful, positive outcome of the birth process.
I wrote a letter to Lydia yesterday.
Aww.
It's like the earth's on fire, but it's always been this way, babe.
No, for real.
It's
always
been this way. And
I think the climate issues make it a little bit more visceral, but we've always been trying to annihilate each other.
We've always had climate issues. There was the ice age, and there,
the younger dryads.
Not this specifically, but there have been periods of cooling.
Things are always changing.
Things are always changing. The coral reef is dying, and people
because of all of the sunscreen we've used, right? Doesn't that contribute to coral reef bleaching? There's like some ingredient. I know that
the ocean
sunscreen
is getting hot, so all of a sudden everything is fucked.
Like all the fucking currents are fucked. Like the weather is fucked. All the bees are dead.
Shut the fuck up! What are you talking about?
They're all dead.
Megan, what are you talking about?
I saw them yesterday.
Megan, what are you talking about?
All the bees.
Shut the fuck up! Why would you drop that on me?
I'm sorry.
Our bees? Our bees are dead?
Yeah. It's so sad.
What happened?
It got so cold, I think.
They were just alive.
I walked out. They were alive on Halloween. They were alive on the party. But I just walked out there and there's no activity.
What? But did you see dead bees? Oh no!
It's so sad.
Did you call Aaron?
No, I talked with Adam about it, and he said he's gonna tell him tomorrow so he can have a good Halloween.
Our bees are dead? Our bees were just there on Sunday.
I think it was the torrential rain and temperature drop.
But not all the bees are dead. What did the other bees do?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Turbo Tim says bees can freeze and they'll come back.
Who's Turbo Tim?
Turbo
Are you
time.
fucking bee head? Are you a bee freak? Oh yeah, I have a little video I can show you. Yeah, so sorry to end the pod like that. There's no sound coming from the hives.
Ew.
It's eerie.
Ew. Oh man, wait, for real? What if they come back? It's gonna be warm tomorrow.
I don't know if they can handle this up, down, back, forth.
But bees are living, and the mosquitoes and the flies.
Maybe there's some variety of bee that we got that is not conducive to temperature adjustments.
So hopefully hive isn't finished. The hive isn't finished.
There was one bee that I saw.
That was floating around.
It was flying.
Was
They like came in. She came in and went inside and then came back out.
Oh my God. She was like, I'm not going in there.
Dude. I don't know. Poor bees.
Okay, we're going to read. And cry.
About the bees?
Yeah, because it said that's like a thing. Bees, are they dead or are they alive?
Here, look at this video.
No. Catch my live bee reaction.
Things don't look so good for the bees, man. There's hope. What's going on, bud?
A bee's like, fuck that.
Things don't look so good.
Did you ever see that movie Ghost Ship?
Yeah, I think so. Doesn't it have that crazy beheading scene?
Yeah,
of
like the big
cheese
wire.
cutter? Yeah.
Like a big tension wire on this giant ship just like snaps and like kills
my
all
God.
these people who are partying.
Ghost ship.
That's what I imagine happens to the bees.
All right, let's read about this. All right, guys.
I was trying to end it on a hopeful note, and
Sorry.
then I remembered.
Oh God, because we were talking about the coral reef diet.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, the bees.
Oh. Anyways, yes.
Life and death are part of nature's cycles. So the only thing we can do is hope for a warm spring where they can bounce back. I don't know.
I am so excited to not be pregnant anymore.
I'm so excited to see that hairy little baby.
Oh yeah. Apparently she's got a head full of hair. We'll see if the tech was right or not. She was very excited.
We got a lot of predictions going. Anybody want to make a bet?
Make a bet.
Oh, we're going trick-or-treating tonight.
We're going trick-or-treating.
I'm going to be Jonathan Davis. She's going to be Fred Durst. And we're not going to sing All in the Family. Bless. Be blessed.
I want to shit on Jonathan Davis. I didn't really know that about him. I've seen like really good interviews with him. I don't read corn lyrics though. And oh God, she's spiraling. She's going out to the corn space.
I'm in. Oh fuck! I'm in corn space.